So in this presentation, we are going to talk about the design of a distillation column, and we will be considering an ideal binary mixture which enters this column and that needs to be separated in this distillation column. The product purities are specified, and how do we design the various aspects of this distillation column we are going to see in this presentation. So we have three main components of the design that we are going to see here. One is the functional design, under which we will determine the height of the column, the diameter of the column. We will see the process design parameters like material balance. We will determine what are the quantities of various material streams. We will do energy balance to determine the energy requirement for the column. We will see how we can find out the ideal stages or theoretical stages, and how we find out the actual number of stages or actual number of trays in a column, and we will see how to determine the reboiler and condenser duty. Under mechanical design, we will see the determination of shell thickness, selection of material of construction, the plate specifications, so what type of heads are used in the column and the thickness of those heads. Also the selection of these heads. There are many other aspects of the column that can be designed, but we have limited our design in this presentation to these items. So let us see. This is a problem statement. It says a continuous fractionating column, it is a bubble cap column, is designed to separate 5000 kg per hour of a liquid mixture which contains 30 mole percent of methanol and 70 mole percent water. So this is the feed. The feed is the mass flow rate of feed is 5000 kg per hour, and the composition of the feed in terms of more volatile component, which is methanol here, is 30 mole percent. The overhead product or the distillate, it contains 95 mole percent of methanol, and the residue, it contains 95 mole percent of water. So that means it contains 5 mole percent of the more volatile component, which is methanol, in the bottom product. Feed enters at its bubble point. It is a saturated liquid feed, and the reflux ratio used is 3. The VLE data is given, and we have to design various aspects and then draw the sectional elevation, and the details of one plate has to be shown in this. So this is the problem statement. Let us see what nomenclature we are going to use for this design. So there is a feed stream. So the flow rate is in terms of the molar flow rate. So F kilomole per hour of feed enters, its mole fraction is ZF. So it enters a distillation column, and the column has got trays, and the convention we are going to use here for counting the number of stages, we will count the number of stages from top to bottom. So the first stage is on the top, second stage is the next below that, and subsequently we have the other stages, and this column has got n number of stages. Vapor from this distillation column, it goes to a condenser. So where the heat, latent heat of the vapors from the top product is removed, it is converted to a saturated liquid or liquid at its bubble point, and then this liquid is recovered as a distillate product, and a part of it is sent back into the column as a reflux. The bottom stream, which is a liquid, it is heated in a reboiler. So we are providing the energy QB, and the vapor generated from this reboiler is sent back to the column, and the liquid product from this reboiler is recovered as the bottom product, W, kilomole per hour. XW is the mole fraction of the bottom product, and the distillate flow rate is D kilomole per hour. Its mole fraction is XD. Reflux is L. So the vapor emanating from the topmost stage is G1 kilomole per hour, and the liquid from the bottom, from the nth stage going down, is Ln, and the vapor going to the nth stage from the reboiler is Gn plus 1. So we are going to use this nomenclature in our design further. So data given, we are given the mass flow rate of the feed 5000 kg per hour, mole fraction of methanol in feed, ZF is 0.3, mole fraction of methanol in distillate, XD is 0.95, mole fraction of water in residue is 0.95, which is 1 minus XW. XW will be 0.05. Then the molecular weights of methanol and water is there. Normal boiling point of methanol is 64.7 degrees centigrade, and the water it is taken as 100 degrees centigrade and 1 atmosphere. Feed enters at its bubble point and the reflux ratio given is 3. Okay, let us determine the flow rates of the unknown streams. So the feed average molecular weight is 22.2 kg per kilomole. So the molar flow rate of the feed is 225.23. Using the overall material balance and the component balance, we can determine the other components, the other flow rates of the other streams, which are you have feed flow rate is 225.23 kilomole per hour, and ZF, XD, XW are given. The distillate is 62.56 kilomole per hour, and the residue flow rate is 162.67 kilomole per hour. Okay, so all these things, they are determined by these two equations, which is F is equal to D plus W and FZF is DXT plus WXW. Next, in general, what is the McCabe-Thiele method we use to determine the number of ideal stages? We will just see. So we have to make a box of 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. It is a square box, and in this we draw x equal to one line, the diagonal line, and then we draw the equilibrium plot. So if we have the equilibrium data given, then we can use this equilibrium data and plot it. Otherwise, we have to use the equilibrium relation which is given in the problem, and we can plot this graph. In this problem, we are provided the equilibrium data. Then we have to mark the feed composition. We have to mark the distillate composition, mole fractions on the x-axis, and also the residue or the bottoms composition on x-axis. Okay. We draw the feed line. In this case, the feed is at its bubble point, or it is a saturated liquid. So the feed line is going to be a vertical line. So we draw the feed operating line and we mark the lines from XD and XW to the x equal to y line, and we find out what is called as XD by Rm plus 1, which is the intercept on y-axis. So this is plotted by drawing a line which starts from XD point on x equal to y line, and you extend it to join the feed point and the equilibrium plot intersection, and you extend it to y-axis. The intercept on y-axis is XD by Rm plus 1. So this Rm is the minimum reflux ratio, which corresponds to the infinite number of stages in the column, because at this point the operating line, the enriching section operating line, is intersecting with the equilibrium plot. Okay. So the number of stages will be infinite. The reflux ratio which will be used in this case will be the minimum. Okay, so we get the Rm from this, and from this Rm we can find out what is the actual value of R, or the reflux ratio, because this actual reflux ratio is given as a factor of this Rm. So R is equal to K into Rm. So we can find out what is actual R, because the value of Xd is given in the problem. So once we know the actual R, we can find the intercept for the actual operating line for the enriching section, and this intercept value is xd by r plus 1. So we join this intercept xd by r plus 1 point on y-axis to xd equal to yd point on x equal to y line. So we get the enriching section operating line, and the intersection of the enriching section operating line to the feed line, that point is joined to the xw point on x equal to y line, which is going to give us the stripping section operating line. Okay, so now we have all the three operating lines. We have the feed operating line, we have the enriching section operating line, and we also have the stripping section operating line. All the three lines, they intersect at a center point. And we start drawing the stages from xt equal to yd point, and the stages are drawn on the operating lines. So we do this stepwise construction on the operating line, and the steps are drawn between operating line and equilibrium curve. So where the feed line is approached, after that we change drawing the stages from enriching section operating line to the stripping section operating line, and we continue making these steps until the xw point is reached. Okay, so once we have drawn all the steps starting from xt to xw on the operating line, we will start counting the steps. Our first stage was on the top, so we will start counting from the top. The top stage is 1, and then we will count these stages on the operating line. So in this diagram, it works out to be around n number of stages are there in this column. So all these stages are the equilibrium stages or the ideal stages, or they are the theoretical stages. If we are using a partial condenser in the column, then the first stage will be considered for the partial condenser. If we are using a kettle type reboiler in the column, then the 10th stage will be considered for the reboiler. Okay, the remaining stages will be considered as the trays or plates in the column. So the feed line was vertical in this case, so we had used it for when the feed is at its bubble point or it is a saturated liquid, but we can have different conditions of feed. If the liquid is below its bubble point, what happens to the liquid when the feed is a mixture of liquid and vapor? What happens when the feed is a saturated vapor? What happens when the feed is a superheated vapor? So we get different types of the feed operating line. Okay, so the slope of feed operating line, it will vary depending upon the quantities of vapor and liquid present in the feed. So we have defined the term called as quality of feed, and which can be calculated as a fraction of the liquid in the feed. So let us say that the feed contains 0.7 mole percent of liquid, then the Q value will be 0.7. Okay, or we can also determine the value of Q from the specific heat and latent heat of vaporizations as per this formula, and we can find out the feed operating line by either drawing the slope of the feed operating line, which starts from the x equal to y point at ZF. Okay, so which is your XF equal to ZF point on x equal to y line. So from that point from this point we can draw a line of slope q by q minus 1, or we can draw a line of intercept minus ZF by q minus 1. Okay, so this is the equation for the feed operating line. Feed operating line has got a slope of q by q minus 1, and it has got an intercept of minus ZF by q minus 1. Okay, so this feed operating line, it can be drawn either by by determining the slope or by determining the intercept. Okay, so we are going to get different types of feed operating line depending on the quantities of vapor and liquid present in that. Okay, so let us solve this problem. We are using McCabe-Thiele method here to determine the number of ideal stages. Alright, so plot x and y star data, draw x equal to y line, and locate the points ZF, XT, XW on x-axis. Okay, and determine the value of q. The q in this case is 1 because the feed is at its bubble point. So the slope of the feed operating line, which is q by q minus 1, is infinity. So therefore the feed operating line is a vertical line. Okay, so we draw a straight vertical line from the xf equal to zf point on x equal to y line. So that will be the feed operating line. Okay, right? So in case when we are not given the reflux ratio value, we can determine the minimum reflux ratio by drawing a line from intersection of xt point on x equal to y line to the point of intersection of feed line to equilibrium plot and extend it to y axis. So that intercept will give us xt by Rm plus 1 that we had seen in the explanation of the McCabe-Thiele in that diagram. Okay, and we will get the Rm value, and from Rm value, if we multiply it by the factor which is provided, which is generally between 1.2 to 2.5, we will get the actual reflux ratio, and from the actual reflux ratio we can find out what will be the slope, what will be the intercept for the enriching section operating line, which will be xt by Rm plus 1. But in this problem, we are given the value of reflux ratio, R value, directly. And this value is given as 3. So we can find out the intercept of enriching section operating line on the y-axis directly by xt by R plus 1, which is 0.95 by 3 plus 1. And this value works out to be 0.24. Okay, so draw a line from xd equal to yd point, which is on x equal to y line. Okay, and join the intercept, which is 0.24 value on y-axis. So you get the enriching section operating line. Okay. Now the stripping section operating line is drawn by joining the intersection of enriching section operating line and feed operating line. Okay, to the xw point on x equal to y line. So draw the stripping section operating line as it was explained in the previous diagram. Okay, so now we have all the three operating lines. We have equilibrium plot. We can draw the stages, we can draw the steps starting from xt point on enriching section and continue drawing these steps on operating line, between operating line and equilibrium plot. Okay, so in this problem, the theoretical number of stages is approximately, it comes out to be 6. So 4.3 stages were there above the feed point, which was in the enriching section, and 1.7 stage in the stripping section, which is below the feed point. So total 6 number of stages. So we have determined the ideal stages. Number of ideal stages is 6. So what will be the actual number of stages? So in this problem, we will assume the condenser uses a total condenser. That means all the vapor which comes out at the top of the column, they are cooled and condensed into a liquid which is at its bubble point. Okay, all the vapor is completely converted to a saturated liquid. So that is a total condenser, and we are using a thermosiphon reboiler. This is also assumption because it is not provided. This information is not there in the problem, so we are assuming it as a thermosiphon reboiler. But if it is a kettle type reboiler, what do we do? If it is a kettle type reboiler, the last stage in the McCabe-Thiele diagram is considered as the reboiler. Okay, the remaining all stages will be taken as the trays or the plates. Okay, so we are not provided the tray efficiency in this problem. So if it is not given, so we are assuming here it has 50% overall efficiency of the stage. So we can find out the actual number of stages as the number of theoretical stages divided by this stage efficiency. So in enriching section we had 4.3 ideal stage, divide by 0.5, we get 9 stages in enriching section. In stripping section 1.7 ideal stage divided by 0.5 efficiency, this gives us 4 number of actual stages. So total number of trays in the column is 13. Okay, so all these stages are trays. Okay, because we don't have a kettle type reboiler here. Okay, or a partial condenser in this problem. So all the stages, they are the trays or the plates. So there are 13 trays in this column. Okay, once the actual number of trays are known, we can find out what will be the height of the column. The height of the column is obtained as the total number of trays multiplied by the tray spacing. So let us fix the the space between two trays. So once that is fixed, we can multiply it by how many stages are there, and then we will get the height of the column from the topmost stage to the bottommost stage. Okay, so above that we will have a top disengaging zone and we will have a bottom disengaging zone. Okay, so TH is for the top disengaging zone above the topmost tray, and BH is the bottom disengaging zone below the bottommost tray. So in this case we are assuming that the tray spacing is 18 inch. Okay, there are some standard tray spacings which we have to take from the literature. So 18 inch is the tray spacing, which is 450 mm, or 45 centimeter is the spacing between two trays. Okay, and the top disengaging zone and the bottom disengaging zone values are 500 mm. Okay, so substitute in this formula, and then we get the value of height of the column as 6850 mm, which is tangent to tangent the top head of the column to the bottom head of the column. Tangent to tangent height is 6.85 meters. So next we go for determining the diameter of the column. As in the case of absorption process, if you recall, we had determined the column diameter by considering the flow rate of the gas, right? And we determine the height of the column by the number of stages or the height of packing in the case of absorption column, if you can recall. So similar way here also the column height we had determined by considering the number of stages, and the diameter we are going to determine by considering the flow rate of the streams. And we have the liquid flow rate and the vapor flow rate in this distillation column, and for a given mass the volume of vapor is much larger than the volume of the liquids, so we are going to consider the flow rate of the vapor for determining the diameter of the column. Okay, so there is a correlation by Souder-Brown, so which is transformed into a plot which is given in the Paris, and that plot is used to determine the diameter of the column. So on the x-axis of the plot we have FLV values, and the y-axis is CSB flood values. Okay, so FLV is is given as Lm by Gm multiplied by rho g by rho L to the power of 0.5. Lm and Gm are the ratio of liquid mass flow rate to the gas mass flow rate. Rho g is density of the gas, rho L is the density of the liquid, and we have the CSB flood is given as UNF. UNF is the flooding velocity, and this is given in terms of the feet per second in the plot, multiplied by 20 by sigma to the power of 0.2. Sigma is surface tension value in dyne per centimeter, and that is multiplied by rho g by rho L minus rho g to the power of 0.5. Okay, so these two formulas, they are the x-axis and the y-axis of the plot. Okay, and we need to determine FLV, and we will find out CSB from the plot. Once we know this FLV value from the plot, we are going to get the CSB flood value. Okay, and from the remaining information, when we substitute, we can find out what will be the flooding velocity. Okay, this flooding velocity is the velocity of the vapor at which the flooding will occur in the column. Okay, so we have to operate at a velocity which is lesser than this flooding velocity. So generally we will operate at 50 to 80% of the flooding velocity. Okay. So we need to determine this flooding velocity through the Souder-Brown plot. Okay, this is the plot which is given in the Paris, and this plot is done for different tray spacings. So you have got 6 inch, 9 inch, 12 inch, 18 inch, 24 inch, 36 inch as a tray spacing. In this problem we have assumed the tray spacing is 18 inch, right? So 18 inch is the plot for us. So this is our plot that we are going to consider. We have to find out the FLV value. We will get by L by G, rho G by rho L to the power of 0.5, and then we will find out at that particular value in this plot at 18 inches, we will find out what is the CSB flood value, and then substitute these sigma, rho G, rho L, rho G, rho L, rho G values, and find out what will be UNF. Okay, so from this flooding velocity, we will determine the diameter. We will see that how to do. In material balance, the reflux ratio is L by D, and the gas rate is L plus D. Okay, so we have to find out L and G values. So L value is 187.68. Okay, we get from multiplying this reflux ratio to the D value, 62.56. This is the molar flow rate, and the G value is 187.68, which is this L value plus the D value. L plus D is this G. Okay, the total gas coming from the top of the column, it gets divided into the reflux which goes back into the column and the distillate product which is taken. So this G is L plus D. We can find out the G, which is 250.24 kilomole. Okay, alright, so we need to get it in terms of mass. So we find out the average molecular weight of the top product. We will consider the mole fractions of the distillate composition here. 0.95 is methanol, 0.05 is water, so you get average molecular weight is 31.3 kg per kilomole. Okay, gas density is Pm by RT. So we take a pressure of 1 atmosphere. Okay, molecular weight 31.3, R is 0.082, temperature in kelvins. This is the boiling point, okay, or the bubble point of methanol we have taken here. Okay, so largely it is methanol. We can take the boiling point of the mixture also. So we get gas density as 1.13 kg per meter cube. Liquid density is the averaged density, okay, for that composition. So that is 0.95, 792.05, 1802.4 kg per meter cube is density. Okay, surface tension. If the value of surface tension is given in the problem, you use that. Otherwise, we will take this value as 20 dyne per centimeter. Okay, so surface tension value sigma is taken here as 20 dyne per centimeter. Okay. Then FLV value, we can substitute LMGM rho g by rho L to the power of 0.5, find out FLV. FLV value, it works out to be 0.028. Okay, so we have the x-axis value, right? So from the plot, FLV 0.028 for 18-inch tray, spacing CSB flood value is 0.28. Okay, so let us see this. 0.028, somewhere it comes here, 0.028. So 0.028, we go to 18-inch tray. This is the 18-inch tray line, and then we find out what is the value of CSB. This value is 0.28. Okay. CSB flood value is 0.28. So substitute this 0.28 value here, and this sigma rho g rho L values here. Find out the flooding velocity. Flooding velocity in feet per second is 7.456. Okay, convert it to meter per second, which is 2.273. This is the flooding velocity. At this gas velocity, the column will be getting flooded. Okay, so we will operate at 70% of the flooding velocity. This we have assumed here. Okay. So the operating velocity is 0.7 into the flooding velocity, and this is 1.59 meter per second. Net cross-sectional area, we will take this as the volumetric flow rate of the gas divided by the operating velocity. Okay, volumetric gas flow rate is meter cube per second. This divided by meter per second, that will give us meter square. So that is the cross-sectional area, the net cross-sectional area. Okay, so we consider this volumetric flow rate of the gas, okay, and that is divided by 1.59, okay, and we are going to get the net cross-sectional area is 1.211 meter square. Okay, this is the cross-sectional area of the column. Okay, but in that column, for each tray, if I consider, some part of the tray will get lost because it is not completely active where the mass transfer happens. Mass transfer, it will happen only where the gas and liquid comes in a contact on a tray. Okay, so every tray has got an active area. We will see that part also later. Okay, and some part of the tray is kept for the downcomer, the liquid flow. From the liquid goes from one stage to another, or it comes from another stage to that stage. So this downcomer area is 12% of this net cross-sectional area of the column. So we need to have slightly more cross-sectional area because we are losing some of the area because of the downcomer in the tray. So divided by 0.88, so you are going to get 1.376 meter square as the column cross-sectional area. So once the cross-sectional area of the column is known, we can find out what will be the diameter of the enriching section. We are all doing this for enriching section, right? So we have taken the data for the topmost gas flow rate. G we have taken from the topmost flow rate, and D value we have taken, right? So in the enriching section of this column, we got the diameter value as 1.323 meters. This is the column enriching section diameter. So the topmost part of the column above the feed plate is 1.323 meter roughly. Okay. So we have got flooding velocity, we find out the operating velocity, and we find out what is the net cross-sectional area. Okay, so that will be obtained from the volumetric gas flow rate by the operating velocity, and then we will get the column cross-sectional area, and we find out the diameter of the enriching section. Okay, so that is what we have done. We got 1.323 meters. Okay, so diameter of the stripping section, which is the section below the feed plate, is also determined in the same way. You consider the gas flow rate or the vapor flow rate at the bottom of the column. Okay, and that can be determined using L dash minus W. Okay, L dash is the liquid going down, minus W is the product withdrawn. Okay, and this L dash is obtained from this L plus Q into F. Okay, so feed flow rate is known, Q value is known, L is the liquid which is in the column, which is equal to the reflux, okay, which is going in the column. So sum of this is the liquid flow rate in the stripping section. The gas flow rate is obtained as L dash minus W. And using this gas flow rate, again find out what will be the volumetric flow rate based on this, because this is given in terms of kilomole per hour. Find out in terms of volumetric flow rate. Okay, and find out the flooding factor, and also the flooding velocity. Okay, from the chart, find out what will be the operating velocity, and then the volumetric flow rate divided by the operating velocity will give you the cross-sectional area of the stripping section. So when you do it, it works out very much closer to this 1.3 value. Okay. So the topmost stage was the enriching section of the column diameter we found out as 1.32 meters. The stripping section column diameter is also around 1.3 meters. So let us consider that the diameter of the column is uniform throughout, and which is 1300 mm or 1.3 meters. In some cases, you would also find out that the difference in the diameters are large. That means the stripping section diameters are more than the enriching section diameter. So in that case, the column has to be drawn accordingly. Okay, and it has to be designed accordingly. So the bottom section below the feed, the column diameter will be more, and above the feed, the column diameter will be lesser. Of course, if the difference is large, then we consider that, but in this problem, it is almost coming close to 1.3 meters, so we will take that as the column diameter throughout the column. Okay. So what we have established till now, we determined the height of the column as 6.85 meters and the diameter of the column as 1.3 meters. Okay. Next we will find out the condenser duty. We assume a total condenser here. Okay. So this G1, it comes to this condenser. This is the gas rate coming from the topmost stage in the column. Okay. And this is the latent heat of this vapor is completely removed, and this is converted to a saturated liquid. Okay, so the vapor flow rate is G1 kilomole per hour. This gets converted to a saturated liquid, which goes out as the distillate and also as the reflux. So it happens in a condenser, and in this condenser we are using a coolant whose flow rate is, let us say it is M. Okay, M is the flow rate of the coolant, and the inlet temperature of this coolant is T1 and the outlet temperature of this coolant liquid is T2. Okay, so if you make the energy balance, alright, so this is mCp delta T. If I consider water as the coolant liquid, so it is mCp delta T of water. This is equal to the vapor flow rate from the topmost stage G1 multiplied by the latent heat of vaporization. Okay, because we are completely removing this latent heat from this vapor and converting it to liquid. Okay, a saturated liquid. Alright, so Cp of water is 4.18 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So we do it in terms of moles because G1 value is in mole. So lambda of methanol is 1035 in terms of kg. Lambda of water is 2284 kilojoule per kg. So lambda 1 will be weighted average. It will be, this is in terms of moles only, so 0.95. Okay, so this is in terms of kg, multiply by molecular weight to get in terms of moles. Okay, this is methanol, this is for water. Okay, so we get lambda 1 as 33,520 kilojoule per kilomole. Okay, and the difference in the temperature of the coolant, which is T2 minus T1, is the temperature approach, or the delta T in this formula is this value. Let us assume this is 20 degrees centigrade unless specified in the problem. Okay, so based on this, substitute in this formula, and the condenser duty is, it works out, is 250.24 into 33520, and this is equated to mCp delta T. So we get the mass flow rate of the water required. Mass flow rate of the water is 7432 kilomole per hour. Okay, multiply by the molecular weight. So we get 1,335 kg per hour of water. So that is the requirement of water in the condenser. Okay, so we found out, we have done the energy balance. Okay, so which is G1 lambda and mCp delta T, and we found out lambda 1, and we substituted that and we got the QC value, and that is equated to mCp delta T value to get the mass flow rate. Mass flow rate value is 1,335 kg per hour. Okay. So next we go for the reboiler duty. Reboiler duty is done to determine what will be the steam requirement in the reboiler. So if we are using steam as a heating media in the reboiler, how much of steam is required, because energy is where a lot of money goes, right? So this is the reboiler. The liquid coming from the stage is Ln dash, from the nth stage it is coming. The product recovered is W kilomole per hour. The vapor going back into the column is Gn plus 1. This reboiler is provided energy QB, okay, by steam, and the mass flow rate of steam is Ms. Okay. So latent heat of steam, this is obtained from steam table. It is 2257 kilojoule per kg. Okay, and we will get in terms of moles because the compositions are in moles here. Okay, so this is given in terms of kg in steam table, so convert it into moles, and we can find out what will be Gn plus 1, because this is the vapor generated from this liquid. This liquid enters the reboiler, and what portion of this liquid gets converted into vapor? It is Gn plus 1. Okay, so the latent heat of vaporization has been provided to this, right? So we should know this Gn plus 1, right? Because this latent heat, okay, multiply this Gn plus 1 multiplied by the latent heat of this stream, that will be equal to that will be equated to the mass flow rate of the steam multiplied by latent heat of steam. So that will be the energy balance. Okay, so m lambda into Gn plus 1 lambda n plus 1. Okay, that will be the mass balance here. So we should know what is Gn plus 1. We can get Gn plus 1 as, you know, in terms of G plus Q minus 1F. Okay, so Q is 1 here, So this Gn plus 1 equal to, it is equal to G. Okay, lambda n plus 1, it is the weighted average in terms of moles, and we are going to get lambda n plus 1 is 40,712 kilojoule per kilomole. Okay, then make a balance. Alright. Alright, so Gn plus 1 multiplied by lambda n plus 1, this is ms into lambda s. Okay, which is this in terms of mole. Everything is in terms of moles. So we get the molar flow rate of the steam required, multiply by 18 molecular weight of water, and you get how many kg per hour of steam. Okay, so this is the equation that we have used. QB is Gn plus 1 into lambda n plus 1. This is ms lambda s. Okay, we find out Gn plus 1 by the material balance of the column, and we determined the QB, reboiler duty, and from the reboiler duty we find out the steam requirement, which is 4513 kg per hour. Okay, so condenser duty and reboiler duty also we have determined. Alright. So functional design, process design we have completed. Let us go to the mechanical design part. So in this we will start with the thickness of the shell. We will do it for internal pressure. The equation is, we are familiar with this equation, which is given in IS 2825, which is the code for unfired pressure vessel. So thickness is PDI by 2FJ minus P plus C. Okay, the C is the corrosion allowance. Material of construction, we will choose this material as carbon steel. So for this F value is 960 kg force per centimeter square, and diameter of the column is 1300 mm. Joint factor J is 0.85. Let us assume the pressure is 2 kg force per centimeter square in the column. Okay, corrosion allowance is chosen as 1 mm. Alright, so all these things were discussed and told in when you were designing the pressure vessels, right? So C value is taken as 1 mm here. Okay, so substitute all this in this equation, and then we get T as 2.595, okay, mm. So this thickness is very small, and to fabricate out of 2.595 mm, the column will not have sufficient strength, because you are providing a lot of stages, a lot of trays in that. So many column internals are there, and there will be so many other external attachments also. This thickness is not sufficient. We will choose a minimum thickness of 6 mm for the rigidity here. Okay, so 6 mm is the thickness of the shell that we are going to use. Okay, and that can be considered at the topmost part of the column. If the column is tall, then we have to increase this thickness as we go down in the column. Okay, because the bottom portion has to bear more weight. Okay, so more stress will be there on the bottom portion. So the thickness has to be increased as we move down in the column. So we can increase the thickness of shell in the lower parts to withstand plate load, the load of the liquid on the plates, the wind load, seismic load, etc. All those things, I think they were discussed in pressure vessel design. So we can have an increase of 2 mm for every 2 meter of the column. So this increase happens as we go down in the column. Okay. So let's look at the design of the tray. This is how a bubble cap tray looks like. Okay, all these bubbles are bubble caps are laid out on this tray. This is the downcomer region, right? So liquid come. This is the region from on which the liquid from the topmost stage comes. It flows here, okay, and then it goes to the next stage through this downcomer. Vapors will be rising, okay, from the bottom to the top. So there is a weir over here. This weir will maintain the level of the liquid, okay, on this column, right? So the vapors will be bubbling in this liquid and then they rise up. Right, so the mass transfer happens in this region. Okay, so the active region where the mass transfer is happening is only this. We are losing, this portion of the tray, and we are also losing this portion of the tray. Okay, as the down cover region that we had considered as 12%, right? All right, so this is the perforated area or the bubbling area. Okay, perforated area, if we say it is the sieve tray, this is or the bubble caps where the bubbling happens. Okay, this is the downcomer seal area, right? So the topmost liquid comes here. There is an inlet ware which will over which which will maintain the level of the liquid. It will come and flows over this. Okay, it will fill to that ware level and then it flows over and it goes down. Okay, this is the outlet ware, okay, and this is the downcomer region. All right, so this is the flow path or the length on a tray. Alright, so when the tray details are asked, you have to show the details in this fashion, and you also have to provide the layout of the bubble caps on the tray. Okay, so this is the region where the liquid from the topmost tray comes. Okay, so there is a ware over there here. So liquid fills in this region first, then it flows over this ware, and then it starts filling here. It flows in this direction, okay, from left to right, okay, and then it fills completely over this active region or the bubbling region, because there is a ware over here also. Okay, so until the liquid comes to that level, it will be filling completely here. All right, so to that level it fills, and after that it overflows and goes down in the column. Okay, and as per this diagram, these bubble caps are laid out in a triangular pitch. Okay, so you can show that also in your diagram when you are making. So this AT is the net area, okay, or the tower area. Okay, this is the total tower area, AT, cross sectional area. AA is the active area. Okay, AD is this downcomer area. This downcomer area. All right. LW is the wear length. LW is this wear length. Okay. So total cross sectional area of the column we obtained, it was 1.376 meter square. The downcomer area was 12% of this total area. So which is downcomer area is this 1.376 multiplied by 0.12. So this is 0.165 meter square. And the net cross sectional area is 1.211, which is the difference between this value and this value. Active area is this total area minus 2 times this downcomer area, so which is one this region, another this region. Okay, so 2 times this downcomer area, and then this is 1.046 meter square. The whole area is 10% of the active area, okay, where the holes are provided in the column, in the tray. So this is 0.1046 meter square. The wear length is 75% of the diameter of the column. Okay, so this length from this end to this end, okay, this length is 75% of the diameter of the column. Okay, this is the diameter of the column, 75% is the wear length. All right, so now we know where to place the wear, right? This is LW. Okay, so thickness of the tray, it carries all the caps, it carries all the liquid on that, so we need sufficient strength. So let us choose it is 8 mm. Okay, so tray thickness is 8 mm. So this is the details of a tray. We determine the wear length, we determine the thickness of the tray. So we know the active area, downcomer area. Alright, so then we will also determine about the top end and the bottom end of the column, which are called as the heads. So we will choose toruspherical dished head for the column, which is used very often. Okay, most of the cases we use toruspherical dished head. Okay, so this is the schematic of a toruspherical dished head. This is the external diameter or the outer diameter DO. Okay, the crown radius is CR. The crown radius for this head is this CR, and this end radius is called as the knuckle radius, and this is the KR. Okay, then we have got this part of the flange is straight, so this is the straight flange section. Okay, and the deflected head section is this much, okay, which is from this end to where the straight flange section starts. Okay, so there are some formulas for determining all these parameters, determining all these values. Crown radius CR is equal to outer diameter of the vessel. Okay, so this diameter is equal to the diameter of the vessel, outer diameter. Okay, so you have to take this center point of the head, and from this you have to find out what is the external diameter, and then you have to draw a line of that diameter. Okay, and then you can draw the crown radius using that at that diameter from this point on the center line. Okay, alright, so outer diameter is, the internal diameter was 1300 mm plus 2 into 6 mm. 6 mm is the thickness of the shell, so two sides it is 2 into 6. So the total crown radius is 1312. Okay, knuckle radius is 6% of the crown radius, so 0.06 into crown radius, so this works out to be 78.72 mm. Then DH value is square root of crown radius multiplied by knuckle radius divided by 2. Okay, so this DH value, it is 227.2 mm. Okay, straight flange section is taken as minimum value is 20 mm. Okay, so let us take 20 mm as the minimum. Alright, so 2 cm is the straight section. Alright, so thickness of the head is given as, this is for the toruspherical head, it is P into pressure into crown radius multiplied by stress intensification factor W divided by 2 Fj, okay, plus the corrosion allowance. Alright, so this also you would have seen in the pressure vessel design. Alright, so stress intensification factor, there is a formula for it, which that actually works out to be 1.77. Alright, so F is for carbon steel 960 kg force per centimeter square, J is joint factor is 0.85, corrosion allowance is taken as 1 mm. So design pressure we took it as 2 kg force per centimeter square. So if we substitute all this, we get the thickness value as 3.845 mm. Okay, so choose a minimum thickness of 6 mm, right, for sufficient rigidity. So the head thickness of both the top head and the bottom head is 6 mm. Okay, and the other dimensions of both the heads are also same. Okay, the crown radius, knuckle radius, all other values are same. Alright, so head design is also done here, right? So we found out the crown radius, we found out the knuckle radius, and we found out thickness using this formula, and we got some thickness 3.8 mm, which is required as per the calculation. Okay, but the minimum which is recommended is 6 mm, so we will go for that. Right, so this is the summary of what all we have designed in this presentation. So we determined the number of trays. Okay, these are the actual number of trays is 13. The number of trays in enriching section, there were 9 trays. Number of trays in stripping section, there were 4 trays. Column height 6850 mm, column diameter 1300 mm, shell thickness is 6 mm, tray thickness is 8 mm, the length of the ware is 1025 mm, top and bottom heads are toruspherical and their thickness is 6 mm, crown radius was 1312 mm, the knuckle radius was 78 mm. Okay, so once we complete a design, it is always better to provide a summary of it in a table form. What all things had been determined in this design, okay, all dimensions, all values of the parameters, put it in the form of a table like this. So once this information is given, we can use this information to translate into a diagram. Okay, so finally we draw the distillation column with all details and show the details on one stage. Alright, so this completes the design of distillation column, and there is an exercise problem. You can try this exercise problem on your own.